adequate focus on feeder attributes. We market over 100 head of females each year, and those females also sell as individuals, as truckloads, whatever the market dictates that year. Additionally, we sell our steers in truckload lots, and then we sell bulls as a part of the 3 different black and white bull sales that are in Alabama and Florida. I guess we have been blessed that we are in a growing market for our females. The females we produce continue to go to customers as far away as Dallas, as far south as Tampa, as far north as Lexington, Kentucky. And then we've marketed our steers for the last 24 years in a producer-driven feeder calf sale, board sale. Since 1992, we've also periodically captured carcass data on either groups of our steers or heifers that we've retained ownership or participated in different programs to try to benchmark what we're doing. For the last several decades, we worked to try to set up our cattle for success, to meet the demands of commercial cattlemen wherever they may be that they're seeking our females to go to work. And I say that, we've taken a little bit of criticism over the years because we've stayed with straight bred Angus cattle. But in any given year, our heifers may go to work and they may be crossed back with 6 different breeds of cattle depending on the customers. That being said, there's a great deal of pressure on us to make those functional females with the focus on longevity, with the focus of being able to convert in a southeastern environment. So we've tried to look at what are the roles of the different tools that we have available. I guess first of those would be nutrition, and when I say nutrition, I'm discussing all aspects of that, starting with fetal programming, all the way through how we look at the resources, both from a co-product, from a forage standpoint, through our heifer development, and then all the way into as we manage our cow herd going forward. During this 25-year period, we've also looked at different synchronization options that were there, both from a technology standpoint, from a nutrition standpoint. You name it, we've tried it, from MGA to back in the Synchromate days to all the different protocols that this group has been so instrumental in creating. We couple that with an aggressive lifetime herd health program. We were some of the first people in our part of the country before people were talking about modified live vaccines. We were using those throughout our herd. And again, that's an integral part of both our herd development, the development of our feeder cattle markets, but also trying to set those females up where they have every opportunity to go and be successful. Additionally, we've tried to put every natural pressure we can on our cow herd. Quite simply, if she doesn't wean a calf, she doesn't get to stay in terms of our mature cow herd. Likewise, though, we are also focusing and trying to capture all the traits that lead to longevity, and I'll refer to this in a few minutes, but I'm just as likely to keep a heifer in our herd that's out of a first calf heifer as I am to keep one out of what I refer to as our geriatric herd. We're pretty proud of that herd. That's a group of about 100 that are 10 to 18 years old. And I'll talk about how we've used these tools to manage those as well. We've used AI. We've used natural bulls that were flush mates. And also we've used ultrasound since 2000 to both age embryos and sex embryos for both our own use, but also as we look to market these calves, or market our heifers going forward. That being said, looking at kind of that whole, if you will, that whole pie of value that we try to create through these different tools, we reached a point about 6 or 7 years ago of what's next. And we're in a very unique spot. We have a lot of repeat customers, some of them who've been with us for 20 years. And I'll never forget one of them discussing EPDs, but it led into other technologies. And he very bluntly put it, I don't get all that. I may not ever get all that. But you can count on the fact that I'm counting on you to not only get it, but to use it. And to help me be best suited, you do that and we'll be back. So that led us into looking at using DNA. We began using GMAX Focus in 2013, testing all of our heifers with GMAX Focus, but the whole time realizing we really would rather have a test that had some of those maternal traits, but again, trying to at least benchmark where we were with what was available at the time. As soon as GMAX Advantage became available in 2015, we immediately shifted to that program and then actually went back and retested all the females that we had retained in our herd that we had tested with GMAX Focus. Those tests were on file. We retested those with GMAX Advantage, again, trying to have as many of those maternal traits captured for our own data. As we looked at that, we're testing every heifer we have, and then we're using that as a part of a several-step criteria for our selection, and then also how we sort those heifers for our females. I guess you talk to someone about what is the value of DNA testing, and it's real easy for people who don't, are wanting to be critical to throw rocks. I guess I would say we immediately saw two things. There's a range of value, and you've got to be realistic of what's your immediate value goals, what's your long-term value goals. I'll be real clear to say the immediate return we had, and is something that we see ongoing, is the value of the sire match component of this test. We're not unlike a lot of people, regardless of your geography. We have a saying that our cows that stay in our herd get tender loving care until they have weaned their second calf. By that point, all the kinks better be out of the program, because they may be across the road or they may be an hour away. As I said, we've used a lot of flush mate bulls, we've used AI, and we have lots of multiple sire units. The value of being able to use sire match back on these females and immediately be able to see which of the bulls we're using, as I say, who are the real cow-making bulls. That's so critical to our business, and that's the immediate one of the immediate results or immediate values we've had by using this test. Longer term, it's had value to us as we can look and use it to minimize outliers. And again, they talk about the smart outliers that this test identifies, from looking at your cow carrying cost, to looking at docility, to looking at some of your carcass traits. Being able to use this test to identify what those are, and whether we're using AI sires or as simple as trying to match which bulls we're using natural service to complement any of those outliers, is a huge tool that you can make pretty aggressive progress. As I mentioned, the first year we were benchmarking. By year 2, we felt like we were beginning to make some impact. I went back and looked. Between years 2 and years 3 of using this data, we eliminated 30% of the outliers within our herd simply by strategically matching which bulls we use, whether natural service or AI. The other part of the equation of the sire match component is we can use AI and then immediately turn in behind that with our cleanup bulls and not wait, because we know we're going to DNA test those heifer calves and know which they're out of. For us, whether we're marking feeder cattle or marketing heifers to customers who want to come buy groups of cattle that are very similar genetically, very similar management, and will calve very close together, that's a big deal. Quite frankly, I appreciated Barb Bounty's results up here yesterday, where she was showing, in the good times where those cattle were, those were those $3,300, $3,500 heifers we sold a few years ago. I'd much rather have more of them than the ones that were 18. By being able to identify that and use these tools, that's a big thing that has short-term implication but also has long-term implication. We also use this data as a sorting tool for our sale. We sell heifers the last Saturday of April every year. We have a little unique environment where we group heifers in by basically three different groups, and there's a base price of those three groups. We don't pretend that our customers understand all the different components of the DNA testing. And a lot of them, I appreciate, are very direct with us. They don't immediately intend to use those. But it gives us and lets us group heifers that should perform at the same level. And I had someone ask me one time, they said, well, what do you do with your heifers that are on that bottom quartile of your DNA profile? And to which, and again, we've been very blessed that we don't have a lot of those that are below if 50 is the industry average, we don't have a lot of those that hit 40 or below. There's a tremendous number of producers out there, though, that those heifers can still go and do an awful lot of work for them. And by making heifers that are light kind, light scores, that calve within a tight window, there's some real opportunity there. I guess the other thing I'd say is, as we're sorting within our herd, it's just like EPDs. It's a tool. And the more valuable of a tool it is how much you know where you are to start with. What are your goals for how you're going to market the ultimate calves out of these females you're making? The other part of this that's opened my eyes a little bit, and not to contradict some of the comments or the traditional wisdom of you need to select your heifers from the firstborn. I'll say once you integrate this DNA testing into it, that's not always the case. And we're in an environment, too, where, frankly, we stress our cows pretty hard in terms of making them perform with the resources we have, the feeds we have. And sometimes some of those firstborn ones also are the biggest ones. And in a lot of situations, using this DNA, we're able to identify the ones that may have higher cow carrying costs. And there's places within our marketplace who they can use those heifers, frankly, better than we can. And that's another key thing that we can identify. Also, this is probably the first year using this data. I've retained heifers for us who were actually born 60 and 70 days into the calving season. But because of the profiles they've had, and I use about a 5-tier approach to our selection, it was well worth me keeping that heifer because I feel like she has enough of the other things that we're looking for, and she still met the minimums of our other specs. So it kind of lets you open your mind a little bit and probably keep females who've got greater opportunity to be in the herd. Now, I didn't want to do a PowerPoint this morning because I figured some of you were probably still getting your second cup of coffee, and I didn't want to bore you flipping slides. If you'll visualize with me, though, I have one slide I started to put up here. And for those of you who keep up with the year lettering, I had one cow that was an N, legitimately. She was 14 or 15 years old. I have another group of cows that are 17. They've calved every year, and they're bred back on time with the rest of them. That is our ultimate goal for our end customer. We have lots of customers who come see us every 5 to 6 years. We have some who come see us every 10 years. And as we look at how are we as an industry making an investment, I think this is one of the tools we have to try to help all of us try to eliminate those cattle that are going to fall out. My favorite story is a customer recently who showed up and said, yes, I'm here to try to replace those 8 branded cows I bought from you. Y'all follow me? That means they were born in the fall of 7. They still had all of them. Point being, if we can use tools that help us see which of these cows have a better chance of staying in the herd and which cattle have a better chance of marketing calves the industry is looking for, I think that's one of the things we need to look at. The other part is we look at the differences and use things like the heifer pregnancy and the milk attribute. In our country, high milking cows don't stay along very long. We as I said, we give them, try to do everything we can for them on a group basis, but individuals that are outliers quickly work themselves out of the equation. This data lets us look at those things and say whether she's identified as one that's a high carrying cost, or also looking at those which, if you look at the heifer pregnancy part of the equation, helps us find out which of those likely are going to fall out early. I guess the other part of it is, how many of you have heard over and over, your bull is the most important thing you have because he has so much to contribute to the genetics of your herd? Not going to argue that as we turn generations. I think where we are today as an industry, though, we need to recognize, whether it's us as seed stock producers, commercial operators, what is the real value and what is the real cost of that cow herd. And again, we've been very blessed to build a unique customer base across a large area. And most every one of those, when they purchase a female or they retain a female, they don't want to have to roll her out of there in 2 or 3 years. They may be changing bulls every year. They may be aggressively selecting which semen they use. By trying to have cattle that are predicted, selected to have longevity and to have function built into them, and using the DNA profile to help do that, we feel like we're helping contribute to the industry as a whole. And this, again, was a good complement to all the things we had were already doing. I guess the other side of it is, as we talk about cost, and I've heard all kinds of figures thrown around there, I'll be real blunt. We figure we can pay for this in 2 years, either between using this to identify heifers that are out of those cow-making bulls initially, also using it to help increase the value of their steer mates, and also using it to help benchmark and eliminate those that are going to cost us money down the road. As we talk about AI specifically, if I was one of the companies outside or I was my AI rep, I would very much be looking and encouraging my producers to use this tool to help me better match the genetics that are in their herd with a bull I choose to use for AI. So those are kind of some of the things we've seen immediately. I guess the other part of it is, from a marketing standpoint, we were, I guess, probably the first herd east of the Mississippi to use the Reputation feeder cattle program. By using, and now we've got basically a GeneMax score on the majority of our cow herd. I just went back and tested all those older cows as well. By plugging in the average value of our cows into the equation they use, we raised our scorecard value up $3 a hundredweight. Well, what does that mean? I said we sell our calves with other producers. We've done that for 24 years. All of our neighbors, a lot of them use very aggressive aggressively select for terminal traits. we're more maternal oriented. But by having that baseline, we were able to compete and market our calves at the same level as our neighbors by benchmarking our females. I guess I'd kind of try to wrap up with, regardless of where you are, size of your operation, this is a valuable tool that can both help you benchmark and also can help you market. And again, I think all of us are interested in the immediate silver bullet. And someone had the slide yesterday that said there's not a single silver bullet. What this is probably one of the best complements you can look at, regardless of your size, regardless of how you market. It's just a matter of deciding you want to go down that road and how you want to try to incorporate it. I guess lastly, we have made we're a pretty cost-conscious operation. We're a pure bare bones operation. The other thing this does is let us make smarter use of the time we're handling our cattle, whether that's sorting them as first calf heifers, whether it's how we manage them as a contemporary group. And again, that's another one of those. It's hard to put your finger on what is the dollar value, but for sure the cumulative return certainly has some real value. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'll be around, and I'll be glad to answer any questions at this point. But that's kind of, I guess, that's our story, and we're very pleased with the return. And also, I would say, I'll compliment Zoetis on how they have evolved this product. When we first started with Focus, we were in their ear saying, when's the maternal one coming out? So then came Advantage. I'll be the first to say I'm a little bit of a data nerd. When we first had Advantage and all we had was a feeder and a maternal index, when I was sorting heifers, I would go and resort that, and I would rank whatever the maternal index was by a factor of 60%. In other words, make my selection 60% based on maternal. Well, now they have the full panel of traits, and that can let us do an even better job of sorting that. So with that, again, I appreciate your time, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thanks again, Jim. We sure appreciate your comments. We have one more special announcement to make before we conclude this morning. Zoetis has recently launched SearchPoint, which is an online genetic information management system designed to enable you as genetic customers to access your data and turn it into information that will help you drive better decisions. SearchPoint offers a 24/7 online set of analytical tools that enable more informed selection and breeding decisions, helping you to produce more valuable offspring. You'll notice at your tables that we have handouts on both GeneMax Advantage and our Lutalice Hicon product. The Lutalice Hicon product is now very convenient in a 2 milliliter dose. Convenience and flexibility, larger bottle sizes is part of the reason that we put that product in that form. One person that's here in the audience I'd also like to introduce is Dr. Kent Anderson. Kent, can I have you stand up? He is our director of our Zoetis Genetic Technical Services Group. He will be around for the rest of the morning in case you have any questions, or you can seek out any of us from Zoetis. With that, we want to let you know we appreciate your business. We appreciate your time this morning. And we hope that we can continue to bring you products that will contribute to the value of your animals and thus your sustainability. With that, thank you very much, everyone.